Hi there, this is Jim Cuesta from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a local musician, songwriter, and I've been asked by the School of Rock in Mason, Ohio, which is just north of Cincinnati, to put some sounds together in their MainStage project for an upcoming Pink Floyd show that they're going to be doing here in January of 2017. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's a series of songs that they're going to be doing that I've programmed, the sounds and some of the samples and things that are all part of that. And one of the things they wanted to do was the song On the Run, which is a synthesizer piece that was done by David Gilmour and Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. It was done on something called a synth-A synthesizer that also had an arpeggiator. And my thought for recreating this for the School of Rock was not just to provide them with some samples and some sounds, but to actually be able to perform this in a similar way that Waters and Gilmour did when they created this on for Dark Side of the Moon. So what I've done is in this MainStage project, I've put together a couple of instruments, a couple of sounds to try to recreate that process using the MainStage arpeggiator. So let's start with the sound itself on the Synth A. Is sound like it was more of a combined thing. There's a video on YouTube of an interview with Gilmour and Rogers and how they did it, and there was a little sample of how they put it together. But in my case, I had to put this in two pieces so that I could, create that hi-hat-like sound using one type of synthesis, and then the tone type of sound in another type of synthesis. And for the electronic hat, I've chosen the ES1 to put together this basically the noise generator of the ES1 with a very interesting ADSR path here. And then as you'll see, the cutoff is there's a lot of velocity path here that's opened up so that velocity makes it as if you were almost hitting a hi-hat harder. So what I did is I took the arpeggiator, and if I can open it up here, yeah, there we go. And in grid mode, I've created the pattern, the 8-beat pattern, which has the accents which you would normally hear in the actual production. So at speed, it sounds like this. So with that taken care of and out of the way, I moved on to the actual tone portion of this. And to get the tone, I decided I started with an ES1, and it sounded pretty good, except that the arpeggiator in MainStage does not allow you to save the note values or the note playing that you have. And I hope that sometime in the future that they'll be able to do that, because being able to recall your note performances and being able to arpeggiate that and change keys would be kind of cool for a bunch of different things. But in this case, I had to find another way to do it. So I used the ES2 here and picked a wave that I thought was close using this bank of the filter over here. And as you'll see in the first place over here, I've set velocity all the way high for pitch 1, 2, and 3. That has allowed me to use the arpeggiator instead of the keyboard and playing the sound and getting the playing the pattern. I'm using the grid and the velocity in order to change the notes. So if I slow this down here, and you'll get a sense of what's happening here note-wise. As you can see, the velocity is very responsible for the pitch, and if I change the velocity or go up, the pitch goes up or down, as it will. And it's very, very finicky. You got to get it just in the right place, or otherwise it's going to sound out of pitch. There, so that's pretty close. And when you get it up to speed, So we've got that happening, and it's actually sounding pretty pretty approximate. So that when you put both of these together, I've put a button on here that's attached to the play and stop of the arpeggiator. So that doesn't sound too bad. It's pretty well approximated, and not too bad for using modern digital synth reconstruction for something that was generated by a late 60s, early 70s type of cutting edge synth back in the day. So the next part of that is to try to figure out how to use the cutoff and the other parameters in order to be able to play this live. And as you'll see up here on the in the playing area here, that I have the low pass filter cutoff, the low pass filter resonance mapped to some controllers. Now the kids are using an MM8 Yamaha keyboard. I have a Korg Cronus that I'm using here, but you can see that I've got the mapped to control surface pieces right here to be able to approximate this. So as I pull up the ES2 and I'll play this, and I'll work with the cutoff and the resonance to show you what it sounds like and how that was all approximated. So all in all, not too bad. It's kind of convincing. I mean, it's not exact, of course, but it's pretty close. And anybody that's going to be watching this and watching the kids perform this, or it's going to be a pretty cool experience to be able to listen to this. Now, there's obviously some other things that are going on, particularly with what's happening with the arpeggiated tones in this, and mainly the that you hear coming in and out, and that's done by using the LFO on the cutoff as it's going. You'll see I'm using LFO 2 here on cutoff 2, which is that portion of the filter, and I have it set at 8.43 hertz in order to give a little bit of an LFO to that cutoff. Now, as you'll see here, and if I can pull this down here, if I can grab a hold, there we go. I have it says R1 for the effects, and this is R1 right here, and this is for this little control right there. As you can see, it kind of moves up and down as I move my control. Now, the control, as you can see, is number 3 here, and you can see that it moves the full swing, but I have it regulated using the max and minimum ranges here. There's 0 to 0.3 because I don't want a whole lot of travel. I don't want a whole lot of movement there, but I do want a whole lot of travel to make it easier to play. So I'll pull the EX2 back up here and start this, and you'll get an idea of what that allows it to do. So that gives it a real, again, I think that it's not exact, but it's really, really close enough for a performance like this that it'll just be pretty cool, I think. So I've learned a lot about, some of what I consider the perceived limitations of the arpeggiator. Like I said before, I hope that they allow people to save their performances so that can be recalled. I mean, for stuff like On the Run, and maybe Vital Signs by Rush would be another one that you could, if you could you get the performance and then you could save the performance and be able to call it up and start and stop it, would be really cool and really helpful in a way. But this is a workaround that's worked in this particular case, and if you're trying to do something that's similar to that, maybe it might work for you as well as a workaround. And if or when they decide to make that other functionality a possibility. I hope you've enjoyed this, and feel free to leave some comments, and thanks for watching.